Welcome, welcome, patrons! Hey, whoa, look, a newish intro. Rad. Anyway, a long time ago, I got a PM from Martin Zanabria Chavez on Twitter. I've made references to this in a few other videos because I just honestly love this theory so much. So for some, this doesn't really come as a surprise, but enough about that, and let's just jump right into the theory. The theory. The old gods are the high priests of the Evanuris. Martin includes more than this as well. That the old gods are trying to free the Evanuris by manipulating the Magisters, that they might not even have known that they were about to unleash the Blight, that the reason they are silent now is that they, much like Solus, are in Euthenera. The evidence. Before I go into the evidence that Martin provided, I'm just going to go into why I love this theory so much. For a long time now, there was theory after theory that states the old gods and the Evanuris are somehow related. Even Dragon Age Inquisition has character banter between Cassandra and Solus hinting at it. The main evidence for this boils down to 2 points currently. While there are considered to be 9 elven gods, we know that Fen'Harel and Mythal were not looked up like the others, making the total 7, which is the exact number of old gods. In the DII Astrarium puzzles, 2 of the codex entries connect Mythal and Dumat and Falandin and Lusicon. But you may be thinking, wait, didn't the previous evidence knock out Mythal being one of the old gods? Yes it did, if the total number of old gods is 7. Another helpful Astrarium puzzle codex mentions that there is writings of an 8th old god that was stricken from records for unknown reasons, and may be out there somewhere. Seems like an odd thing to add in the game if there wasn't a good reason for it. So with that, let's dig into the evidence that was sent in. This only happens with a specific world state, so some of you might have missed it, but if you let Morrigan drink from the Well of Sorrows and did not have an old god baby, you need to go and search for the Shrine of Mythal. Once there, she says this.
You know who I am. From high priest to high priest, I am the last to drink of sorrows.
So Morrigan is now the high priest of Mythal. Here, she also learns how to become a dragon from Mythal herself. Now let's jump to another world state, one in which the Inquisitor drank from the well. Only in this world state can you read this codex entry. His crime is high treason. He took on a form reserved for the gods and their chosen and dared to fly in the shape of the divine. The sinner belongs to Durthaman. He claims he took wings at the urging of Gilinon, and begs protection from Mythal. She does not show him favor and will let Elgrenod judge him. For one moment there is an image of a shifting, shadowy mass with blazing eyes whose form may be one or many. Then it fades. A form that can fly, but that only the gods and their chosen may use? One would think that this form would be something powerful, perhaps like a dragon. Alright, so the old gods is the high priest of the Evanuris. In this theory, why would the old gods want the Magisters to break into the Golden City? Why were they locked away to begin with? Martin suggests this. The old gods are not locked away, but rather in Euthenera, much like how Solus slept after using a lot of strength when creating the Veil. In their slumber, they formed a plan to manipulate the humans into taking down the Veil and free the Evanuris for them. The old gods knew that something powerful could bring down the Veil, and Martin theorizes that they could sense something powerful hidden behind the Veil. Thinking it was the elven gods, they tasked their followers into freeing the gods for them. Except it wasn't the Evanuris, it was the Blight. Now, we do have hints that the Blight has existed since the time of the Elves, from the Elven god Andrul codex entry. One day, Andrul grew tired of hunting mortal men and beasts. She began stalking the Forgotten Ones, wicked things that thrive in the abyss. Yet even a god should not linger there, and each time she entered the void, Andrul suffered longer and longer periods of madness after returning. Andrul put on armor made of the void, and all forgot her true face. She made weapons of darkness and plague ate her lands. She held things meant to be forgotten, and the other gods became fearful and Andrul would hunt them in turn. Now, if this doesn't sound familiar, I want you to remember Red Lyrium, which is just Blighted Lyrium. In this theory, Martin suggests that Solus not only locked away the Evanuris and the Forgotten Ones, but the Blight as well. And with this theory, you could also ask if that means that Solus did this all on purpose, that he knew the old gods would assume the Evanuris were there and try to free them, and the Blight was used as a trap. The rebuttal. Remember that I mentioned that there is banter between Solus and Cassandra involving the old gods and the Evanuris? Well, to be honest, it doesn't technically say Evanuris, but many read between the lines that it does. Let's listen to that.
Solus, the dragon Corypheus commands, could it truly be an archdemon?
One assumes that if it were, we would be facing a blight.
So what is it then? A corrupted dragon? Simply another darkspawn?
It is connected to Corypheus. Such a relation goes beyond mere control. It is a bond.
It makes you wonder if that's all the archdemons themselves are, pets to beings who no longer exist.
I would not go as far as that. This dragon is a replica, spawned from a creature who aspires to greatness, no more.
Okay, so even if the beings that no longer exist are the Evanuris, Solus sorts of bats away the idea that they are pets. Solus has a history of meaning exactly what he says and nothing more, but what he says here can be interpreted 100 different ways. But I want to mention this because a valid way of reading this is that the old gods were not subservient to older beings, which would disprove this theory. Also, this honestly has nothing to do with lore, but I've heard so many people express the idea that I think it should be brought up. Some people are just tired of the elves. So far, the elves have had their hands in every major lore that we can think of, minus the Canary, and even that might come to pass one day. To have the elves be the ancient human gods would sort of suck for someone who's sick and tired of the elves. I bring this up because it's a common enough fan reaction that sometimes I wonder if it may actually affect how the writers continue on with the story of Thetis. And that, dear patrons, is all that I have for this theory. What do you think of it? Like I mentioned previously, this is probably my favorite theory that we've covered so far, and a huge thank you for my team for coming up with this and being so nice to send it to me, and also waiting for like 2 months for this to get made. Also, a fair warning to everyone, if you suggest a video or a theory, it's going to be a few months before I get to it. Do you still have lingering questions, proof that I'm wrong, comments about your own fan theory? Feel free to tweet me at @Gilderthon on Twitter or send a PM to user Gillanon on Reddit. The rest are all.